Nightfall carried a strange stillness over the narrow streets of Eastbridge, the kind of silence that didn't comfort, it warned. Inside a worn-down yellow house at the edge of a rice field, a woman's voice broke that stillness, sharp, accusing. "You think you can just walk out?" Elena, her mother's hand, cold and practiced, gripped her arm so tightly that the veins beneath Elena's skin pulsed with pain. The older woman's face, Mrs. Biche, was half-shadowed by the flickering light bulb overhead. It swung slowly, throwing the room into a rhythm of brightness and dark. Brightness and dark. Elena stood barefoot on the concrete floor, her suitcase open and half-packed, her eyes red from the argument that had been repeating itself for years. "I'm not leaving for anyone," Elena said quietly. "I'm leaving for myself." "Yourself," her mother laughed bitterly. "You don't have a self. You have a debt, and you'll pay it the way a good daughter does by marrying the man I chose for you." The word debt landed heavier than any slap could. For 22 years, Elena had lived like collateral, always paying for something she didn't buy. The food on the table was because of your sister's job. The roof over her head was because your father worked himself to death for you. And now, her body, her entire future was because of your mother's sacrifice. The lie had been rehearsed so often. It sounded like truth. Elena straightened her back, gripping the suitcase handle tighter. "You can't sell me off. Mother, I'm not one of your old debts. You think you have a choice." Mrs. Biche sneered. "That man will take care of you. He's respectable. He's rich. You should be grateful someone still wants you." The slap came before Elena could answer. It wasn't new, it was ritual. The house had always run on violence, the same way other homes ran on electricity. But this time, when her mother's palm met her cheek, something inside her didn't shatter. It went quiet. The kind of quiet that comes before storms. Violet, her younger sister, leaned against the doorway, smirking. "Don't make her angry. Sis, you know she's got high blood pressure. You wouldn't want to kill your own mother, would you?" Elena turned her gaze toward Violet. There was no hatred in it anymore, just fatigue. "You always liked the drama. Vi. Maybe you should marry him instead." Violet laughed, but her eyes flickered. "He's too old for me, and too broke for Mom's taste." The words stung, because they were true. The man Morfan was almost 50, a widower with a construction business that was barely standing. But to Mrs. Biche, barely standing was still better than broke and single. Elena turned to her mother one last time. "If you force me to do this, I'll disappear, and you'll never find me again." "Disappear?" Her mother spat. "You wouldn't last a week without me. Then let's see, Elena whispered. The slap that followed was harder, louder, a punctuation mark on 2 decades of submission. Elena's head snapped to the side, her hair falling over her eyes. And that's when the front door burst open. The sound of boots against tile, a man's voice low, restrained, but edged with steel. Enough. Adrian Cole stood in the doorway, the faint glow of a street light outlining his frame. He didn't belong in this house of chaos. His composure was too deliberate, his silence too loud. Mrs. Beach turned, startled. Who are you? How dare you? I am the man who found your daughter bleeding in the street last month, Adrian said evenly. The one who took her to the hospital when you didn't answer the phone. The older woman froze. That's none of your business. It became my business when she stopped breathing in my car. The room fell quiet. Even Violet looked away. Adrian stepped forward, eyes calm but merciless. You call yourself her mother, then act like one. You don't hit a woman just because you're scared she'll leave. Mrs. Beach's voice trembled. You have no right to judge me. You're right, Adrian said, but she has the right to leave. For a second, Elena thought she might collapse. No one had ever said that for her, not once, not in this house. Her mother's face twisted. You think she'll find something better out there? A man like you? Maybe Adrian's tone didn't change. A man like me wouldn't marry her, but I'd make sure she's free. The insult, if it was one, didn't matter. The declaration did. Elena's hands trembled around the handle of her suitcase. She whispered, "Thank you. Don't thank me," he said quietly. Just walk out before you lose the courage. So she did. She picked up her suitcase, walked past her stunned mother, past Violet's frozen smirk, and into the night, outside. The air was heavy with humidity and relief. She didn't look back, not because she wasn't curious, but because looking back was the first step to being dragged back. Adrian followed her to the gate. He didn't touch her, didn't comfort her, just stood beside her like a silent witness. Where will you go? He asked. Anywhere, she said. As long as it's not here. He nodded. Then go where you're not afraid of silence. Is that a place it can be? He said. If you build it. They stood there for a moment. Two strangers caught in the same unfinished story. Then Adrian stepped aside, letting her walk away. The road stretched ahead uneven, wet, endless. She walked until her legs stopped listening, until the rain blurred the lights, until she couldn't tell where the pain ended and the freedom began. And that's when she collapsed. When she woke, the ceiling above her was white. The air smelled faintly of linen and something expensive, Her first thought was that she died, and this was heaven for the exhausted. But when she turned her head, she saw Adrian sitting by the window, reading something under the soft yellow glow of a lamp. "You're awake," he said without looking up. Elena tried to sit. Pain crawled up her shoulder. "Where am I?" "My house. You passed out on the street. Thomas brought you in." "Why?" He closed the file and met her eyes. "Because you looked like you'd already survived too much to die over exhaustion." Elena laughed weakly. "That's not a medical diagnosis. It's a professional observation." He said, "You're a doctor." "No, I just know what it looks like when someone decides they're done being afraid." He stood, walked to a small table, poured her water, and handed it to her. The gesture was precise, detached, like a ritual. But his eyes gave him away. There was softness there, buried under years of control. "You can rest here for the night," he said. "No one will bother you, and tomorrow, you decide what comes next." He turned to leave, but she called out, "Why are you helping me?" He paused at the doorway. "Because someone once told me the only decent thing left in this world is to stop another person from drowning, even if they don't ask you to." He left without waiting for her response. Elena lay back, staring at the ceiling, the quiet of the room pressed against her chest. For the first time in years, the silence didn't hurt how it healed. Outside, rain began again, soft and relentless, washing the streets clean of the night's noise. In her mind, a sentence formed, not a promise, just a thought. Maybe being saved doesn't mean being owned. She closed her eyes. And somewhere, in the next room, Adrian Cole looked out his window, wondering why saving one stranger had suddenly felt like confessing something to himself. Morning light crept through the blinds like someone too polite to enter uninvited. Elena woke to the smell of coffee and rain-soaked air. The room was foreign, yet strangely calm. Neutral colors, glass walls, quiet enough to hear her own breathing. She wasn't sure when she'd last slept in a place that didn't echo with someone's anger. Her clothes from the night before were folded neatly on a chair. A note lay beside them. "Thomas will drive you wherever you need. A.C." The initials looked like they belonged on a contract, not a thank you note. Elena sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the cup of coffee that someone had left on the nightstand, still warm. It made her uneasy, the way kindness always did, after years of earning everything with apology. She left the room quietly, expecting to find an empty house. Instead, Adrian was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, phone on the counter, eyes fixed on something beyond the window. "Good morning," she said softly. He turned, the kind of turn that measured the space between people. You slept well. Better than I expected. He nodded once, pouring her another cup. You can stay until you decide what's next. No pressure. You really like giving people choices, she said, half smiling. Most people never had one, he replied. You learn to value what was once rare. There was something about his tone that made her stop asking questions. It wasn't just authority. It was the exhaustion of someone who'd seen too many people lose themselves for comfort. She thanked him, then excused herself. Outside, the city pulsed again, the sound of buses, street vendors, the faint rhythm of life going on. She took a deep breath. Freedom still smelled strange. 2 days later, her phone rang. The screen flashed a name she hadn't seen since the night she left home, mother. Elena hesitated, then answered. You disappeared, her mother hissed. Do you have any idea what you've done? I'm alive. Elena said, that should be enough. Alive. You've embarrassed this family. The wedding is in 2 weeks. You will come home immediately. Elena felt her throat tighten. There is no wedding. There is, her mother snapped, and you'll attend it as the bride. The fans are generous, and I won't let you ruin this chance. I told them you were just overwhelmed. Elena's hand trembled. Overwhelmed. You mean terrified. Stop dramatizing everything. You've been a burden your whole life. This is your way of giving back. She hung up. The silence afterward was deafening. By the end of the week, Elena stood outside her childhood home again. She didn't know what she was expecting. A welcome. Maybe a fight. What she found was worse indifference. Her mother didn't look up from her phone when she entered. Violet lounged on the couch, flipping through a fashion magazine. You're back, her sister said, not looking up. I thought you'd run away for good. I tried. You always try. That's your problem. Her mother's voice cut through the air. The fans will be here at 7. You will wear the dress I bought, and for once in your life, you'll keep your mouth shut. Elena clenched her fists. You're really doing this. Doing what mothers do. Mrs. Beach said, securing her daughter's future. You're selling me. I'm saving you. There it was again, that twisted logic, the kind that could make cruelty sound like love. At exactly 7, a sleek black car stopped outside. 2 people stepped out, an older man in a suit and a woman with pearls so heavy they seemed to hold up her smile. Our son apologizes, the man said politely. He's in Da Nang for business. Of course, Mrs. Beach gushed. Work comes first. We understand completely. The 2 families sat facing each other like diplomats negotiating a truce. Elena sat between her mother and a vase of wilting flowers, staring at the untouched tea in front of her. "She's lovely," the woman said, studying her. "A little quiet, though she's obedient." Mrs. Beach said quickly, "Not like her sister." The room filled with the sound of adults complimenting things they didn't mean. "Our son is very stable," the man continued. "He runs his own construction firm. A bit older, but maturity is a blessing." "How old?" Elena asked quietly. A pause. 51, he said, but young at heart. Elena almost laughed. It wasn't even outrage anymore. It was absurdity. Her mother kicked her under the table. "She's shy," Mrs. Beach said with an apologetic chuckle. "But she'll learn to love him. Learn to love him." The phrase was so familiar it made her dizzy. She had grown up watching her mother learn to love the man who drank away their savings, who shouted at dinner tables, who cheated and then cried about guilt. If that was love, she wanted none of it. The meeting ended with polite laughter and hollow promises. When the fans left, her mother turned to her. "You will not embarrass me again." "I won't," Elena said, "because I'm not coming to that wedding." The vase hit the wall before the sentence finished. Porcelain shattered. The sound was almost beautiful in its finality. That night, Elena packed her things again, but this time, she didn't cry. She didn't even shake. Pain had taught her endurance, and endurance had turned into clarity. When Violet walked into the room, she found her sister folding the same few dresses into the same old suitcase. "Running away again?" Violet asked. "Leaving," Elena corrected. "What's the difference?" "Running means you're scared. Leaving means you've had enough." Violet leaned against the doorframe, eyes narrowing. "You think you're better than us now, living in some stranger's house, letting him rescue you." Elena looked up slowly. "He didn't rescue me. He just opened the door." Her sister smirked. "That's how it starts. And how it ends, you'll find out," Violet said, turning away. Elena zipped her suitcase, ignoring the sting of her words. She had spent too long letting her sister's bitterness write her story. Not this time. By dawn, she was back in the city. The air smelled of wet asphalt and jasmine. The bus dropped her near an old guest house. She took a room, small but hers, the kind of space where no one could enter without knocking. She sat by the window, watching people hurry to work, and wondered what it would be like to live a life that wasn't constantly borrowed. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "You didn't answer your door last night. Oh, see." Her pulse quickened. She typed back, "I had nowhere else to go." The reply came instantly. "Then maybe it's time you let me offer one." She stared at the screen, her reflection ghosting over the words. That evening, the doorbell rang. When she opened it, Adrian Cole stood there, same expression, same stillness that felt like both warning and safety. "You shouldn't text strangers," she said. "You shouldn't walk alone at night," he replied. "So what do we do now?" "We make a deal," she frowned. "What kind of deal?" He stepped inside, his voice steady but soft. "You pretend to be my girlfriend. In return, I help you disappear." She laughed incredulously. "That's the worst proposal I've ever heard." "It's not a proposal. It's an agreement." "Why me?" "Because you have nothing left to lose. And that makes you believable." His honesty disarmed her more than any lie could. "And what do you get from this?" He looked at her for a long moment. Peace, or the illusion of it. For a while, neither spoke. The city outside hummed with life, but inside, time seemed to stop, just the hum of the air conditioner and the echo of something unspoken between them. "Finally," she said, "I don't trust you." "Good," he said. "Trust ruins good business." "This isn't business." "It will be." He took out a card and placed it on the table. "Thomas will pick you up tomorrow morning. Don't bring much. Just yourself. And if I say no, then I'll assume you've found somewhere better to go." When he left, the room felt smaller. Elena sat there, staring at the card. It wasn't the first time a man had offered her something, but it was the first time someone had offered her freedom disguised as a contract. She called Annabelle that night. Her friend's voice, warm and steady, filled the silence. "You sound different." "Do I?" "Yeah, like someone standing at the edge of a cliff and wondering if the wind will catch her." Elena smiled faintly. "Would you jump if it meant not dying?" "Where I stand, yes." "You think this is a good idea?" "I think you've spent your whole life being told what's bad for you. Maybe it's time to find out on your own." Anna looked out the window. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled, a reminder that even storms moved on eventually. "Okay," she whispered, "then I'll jump." Morning did not arrive with sunlight so much as with intention. Thomas waited at the curb, exactly on time. Umbrella held like an oath. Elena stepped out of the guest house with a single carry-on and the steadiness of someone who had decided against her fear while it still had the louder voice. "Good morning, Miss Elena," Thomas said, opening the rear door. "We're on a schedule that respects both dignity and traffic." She almost smiled. "That sounds like a religion, for some of us," he replied. "It's salvation." The city moved by in gray, then green, then the brushed steel of new buildings promising futures they couldn't deliver. When the elevator opened, Adrian stood at the end of the hallway in a charcoal suit that could have been a command. He didn't approach. He let the distance say, "This will be your choice, or it will be nothing." "Coffee?" he asked, leading her into the penthouse. "I brought my nerves," she said. "That'll do." He set a mug before her anyway. No perfume clouded the room, just cedar, paper, rain. He slid a crisp folder across the table. "She didn't touch it. You already read it," she said. "I wrote it." He answered, "Which means I've also revised it twice since last night. Control as a hobby, defense as a lifestyle," he said, then softened. "Sit, please." She did. On the top page, agreement of mutual representation. It looked clinical. And then she saw the clause he'd added, handwritten, blue ink, the only human color on the page. Clause 0. Either party may ask the other to stop at any time for any reason. No does not require justification. She ran her thumb over the words like a blind woman feeling a map. People usually put this clause last. "I prefer to know where the exits are," he said. She read the rest. 3 appearances, a stipend, wardrobe provided but owned by her after the term, no publication of personal histories, boundaries defined by optics, not by impulse. There was even a line, "No alcohol will be required." She hadn't told him she didn't drink. He hadn't asked. He'd paid attention. "What do you get?" she asked. "A delay," he said. "Enough to keep a board and a family from deciding my private life is company property. And after the delay, I choose for myself," he replied. "Even if what I choose is no one." She let silence do its check. "My mother will call this prostitution. Your mother calls power anything she cannot spend," he said. "We'll call it strategy." And the lie. "We won't lie," he said. "We will perform. There's a difference." She exhaled. "All right. You're agreeing. I'm agreeing to try on your version of oxygen." He did not offer a hand to shake. He simply nodded, folded the folder closed, and for the first time since they had met, his shoulders lowered fractionally as if someone had removed a coat only he could see. Preparation did not feel like disguise. It felt like translation. At the boutique, a woman named May met Elena with the kind of smile that made compliments unnecessary. "We're not correcting you," May said, tape measure sweeping like a wand. "We're reframing the person you already are." Elena watched herself become lines and decisions. Midnight silk again, but this time with sleeves that said, "Don't mistake softness for permission." Shoes with a heel that could leave a room without apology. Hair swept off her face the way light leaves a doorway before closing it. Your eyes are where the truth sits, May murmured, pinning a hem. Let people try to earn them. Back at the penthouse, a makeup artist asked questions. Elena had never been asked. Where do you like your shadows? What part of your face do you trust? They spoke the language of agency in a room that used to hold silence. Adrian stood at the doorway, observing, absorbing, interfering with nothing. When Elena stepped forward in the finished dress, he looked away first, a small, human concession to being unexpectedly moved. You look like someone who could forgive the world and still make it pay interest, he said. Is that a compliment? It's a forecast, he answered. The first event was a charity dinner in a glass museum that looked like an art installation of wealth. Chandeliers hung like captured galaxies. Waiters floated. Conversations glittered with names. Elena placed her hand on Adrian's arm, not as a claim but as choreography. Adrian, a man said, stepping into their orbit, you finally brought mystery to a room that had everything else. Elena, Adrian said, this is Raymond Cho, an investor with a moral compass he occasionally lends to friends. Raymond grinned. We use it like a library, return it late, and with notes in the margins. He shook Elena's hand and, rare for these rooms, asked no intrusive questions. Welcome to the aquarium, he said. The fish stare back. As the evening unfolded, Elena learned the steps quickly. Smile without inviting, nod without agreeing. Answer the question behind the question. Are you safe to stand beside? Will you protect a secret I haven't confessed yet in a quiet corner? Under a blown glass sculpture that looked like a frozen fire. She whispered, everyone here looks relieved. Relief is the drug after fear, Adrian said. They're high on the absence of consequences. And you, I prefer clarity to relief. He said, it lasts longer. She watched him as he moved through conversations with the efficiency of a surgeon triaging a crowded ER clean incisions. No unnecessary blood. And yet with her, he slowed. When she reached for water, his hand steadied the stem. When she stepped between tables, he adjusted his pace to hers. Not ownership, calibration. At 9:40, a woman approached with deliberate grace and an interest she did not consider rude. Mr. Cole, she said. Finally, she turned to Elena. And you must be the reason he's been refusing introductions. Not refusing, Adrian said. Postponing. Until now, the woman said, amused. I'm Helena Voss. I advise people with more money than certainty. Then you're busy, Elena said. Helena appreciated the line. I like her. She's not for sale, Adrian said. Helena held up both hands as if calming a skittish horse. Relax. I've known your father, your board, and your enemies. I know the difference between a transaction and a person. She studied Elena. I am still learning, Elena said. Helena nodded. Approval earned. Good answer. Then, lower, to Adrian. The board has been circling. This buys you 3 months. Use them to decide, not to hide. Noted, he said. Helena drifted away, already onto another fire. Elena touched the rim of her glass. Do all your friends speak in warnings? The honest ones do, and the others, they speak in decorations. She looked up at the ceiling, where light refracted into hesitant rainbows. I used to think money made rooms cleaner. It just makes them brighter. And brightness, he said, doesn't distinguish dust from diamond. Clarity does. She returned. He glanced at her. Stay near me, he said softly. Not for optics, for reprieve, from expectation. On the drive back, the city draped itself in punctual midnight. Elena rested her head against the glass. Why can't your board leave your life alone, she asked. Because they believe my life is leverage, he said. Attach me to the right family, and the next decade of acquisitions gets smoother, and the wrong one costs money, he answered. Money forgives almost everything except unpredictability. She turned to him. Is that what I am? A performance of predictability. You're something boards can't negotiate, he said. A person who doesn't want anything from me that can be recorded on a spreadsheet. What if I do want something? Then say it. She thought, I want breathing room that doesn't belong to you. Then it won't. He said, you say that like it's easy. He watched the red wash of a traffic light roll across the hood. Nothing I've ever done that mattered was easy. The rest, I hired out. She smiled despite herself. They said little else, but the quiet no longer needed translation. 2 days later, the second appearance, a board luncheon that preferred efficiency to spectacle, sunlight in sharp rectangles, water served like discipline. Adrian took his seat at the head of the table, Daniel on his left, Elena on his right. The board fanned out like jurors who had already voted. Charles Carter, the elder, a name spoken with both deference and insurance, adjusted his cufflinks. Mr. Cole, he said, I see you've brought morale, clarity. Adrian said, morale is borrowed, clarity. Charles repeated, appraising Elena. Is she yours? No. Adrian said simply, she's hers. A few eyebrows scaled quiet hills. Elena held her posture. Let the comment do its slow work. Charles smiled without warmth. We're pragmatic men, he said. We like stability. Stability is my job. Adrian replied. This is my life. A company is a family, Charles murmured. Then it should stop behaving like an in-law, Elena said before she could stop herself. Silence surfed the length of the table, then crashed. Daniel coughed into a laugh he failed to hide. Adrian didn't look at her, but the invisible axis of the room shifted a degree in their favor. When the luncheon ended, Charles cornered Adrian near the windows that overlooked a city, pretending it didn't need anyone. You made a point, the older man said. But the clock still ticks. The West Coast hotels need an anchor partner. I will not marry a balance sheet, Adrian said. Then hand me an alternative, Charles replied, or I will let the board do what boards do, tidy, untidy men. Adrian watched him go. He'll force another alignment, he said to Elena. What does that mean in your language, an arranged marriage with a good PR team? And in mine, she asked. Pressure on your weakest memory, he said. My mother, she said. Understanding. Your mother, he agreed. It happened that night, like most bad news does, after the day has used up your courage. Elena's phone lit with her sister's name. Mother says if you don't show for dinner Sunday, she'll sign papers saying you owe her everything she spent on you since you were rescued. She found a lawyer who likes words more than truth. Elena closed her eyes. How much Violet named a number that felt like a dare. Tell her I'll pay it, Elena said, voice steadier than her knees. You don't have it. I'll get it. You think you're rich, boyfriend. He isn't, Elena said. And I'm not for sale. Everything is, Violet said. Then softer, almost sorry, especially us. She hung up before pity could leak. Elena told Adrian the next morning. He didn't ask if she wanted help. He asked where to wire it. No, she said. I'll take the stipend, the dresses, the car when I need it. I won't take rescue money. This isn't rescue, he said. It's repayment. For what? For the way you've been the only honest thing to stand next to me in a year, he said. Let me pay back the balance. She stared at him. You talk like a man whose heart has an accounts receivable department. It does, he said. It also has a ledger called regret. I keep that one short. Then make me a loan, she said, with terms. He nodded. Done. 0 interest. Collateral secured by your refusal to owe me. That's not how collateral works. It is here. She laughed then, quietly, which felt like a door opening to air that had known how to be kind all along. Fine, she said. A loan I never need to repay. You'll repay it, he said, just not to me. To whom? Then, to the next person drowning out of frame, he said, "The dinner was held in a restaurant that specialized in pretending it was private. Adrian and Elena arrived together, Daniel trailing with a reluctance that had charm to spare. Across the table, Charles Carter again, 2 board members, and a woman Elena had seen once in a magazine captioned Heiress and Philanthropist. Beside her, a mother with eyes like gated property. Introductions were weapons disguised as courtesy. Elena felt the shape of the trap, now an alliance packaged as opportunity. When the waitress poured wine, Elena covered her glass. The heiress's mother raised a manicured eyebrow. "She doesn't drink." "She doesn't need to," Adrian said. "Everyone needs to," the woman replied. "It's how people become manageable." Elena met her eyes. "Maybe you're entertaining the wrong kind of people." The older woman smiled the way people do when they've just filed your name in the drawer marked problem. Or maybe you're entertaining the wrong kind of life. The meal moved forward in tiny, delicate detonations. Daniel diffused with jokes. Adrian deflected with facts. Elena endured. At dessert, Charles leaned in. "The quarter closes in 10 weeks, he said. "I'll need your personal situation aligned before then." He turned to Elena. "We prefer permanence to props." "So do I," she said. "Permanence, however, starts with consent." Charles dabbed his mouth, bored with limits. 10 weeks, 3 months. Adrian countered. Charles considered. 12 weeks? He said generosity measured in calendar squares. And then we stop pretending you're exceptional. He stood. The meeting was over. As they left, Daniel whispered to Elena, "I don't like the way he said we. Power always travels plural." She said, "Stay close to my brother." Daniel added, "Serious for once. He's not the worst kind of wolf, but these woods are busy." Back at the penthouse, Elena stood at the window while the city exhaled into its lights. She was still wearing the dress that turned her into architecture. She didn't know what to call the ache under her ribs. 3 months, she said. "It buys us air," he replied. "Air isn't freedom. It's the first payment toward it," he said. She turned to him. "What does this make us?" "Adrian temporary allies," he said, "who accidentally make each other braver. That sounds like the start of something dangerous. Or honest." He stepped closer, not enough to break a rule, enough to test gravity. "Elena," he said quietly, "if at any point this begins to feel like a cage, I'll walk." She finished. "Clause 0. He nodded. "And I won't follow." "I don't doubt you," she said. "I doubt me." He studied her. "You've survived too much to mistake kindness for ownership again." She smiled sadly. Survivors are good at mistaking things. It's how we keep breathing. A silence. Then his voice. Lower. Then let breathing be all you owe me. And what do you owe me? He considered respect and endings that don't require apologies. She looked back at the city. Rain began again, a soft percussion over glass. Somewhere far below, a siren moved through the dark like a needle finding thread. 3 months, she said once more, to the window, to the future, to whatever part of her had learned to count down to freedom. Without looking desperate, let's spend them like people who won't ask for a refund. Some contracts protect the heart by giving it rules, but rules don't make us safe. They make us visible to ourselves. If you must borrow a life, do it with dignity, then pay it forward to the next stranger who forgets they can say no. Morning found the city folded in fog, as if even the skyline had secrets worth concealing. Elena woke with the faint weight of decision on her chest, the kind that didn't vanish when you sat up. The night before had rewritten more than a contract. It had rewritten her reflection. Thomas arrived again, punctual as truth. Mr. Cole requested you be ready by 9. He said, "Does he ever sleep?" Thomas smiled. People who command storms don't rest when it rains. The drive to the boutique felt less foreign today. This time she wasn't being fitted for armor, but for reintroduction. When the mirror met her eyes, she didn't flinch. The transformation wasn't the gown or the hair. It was the permission. Permission to occupy space without apology. The woman staring back no longer resembled the girl who had trembled in her mother's house. And yet, under the silk and poise, there was still that trembling part of her whispering, "Don't believe in safety. It leaves first." That evening, Adrian took her to an event that wasn't charity or business, it was legacy. The Cole family estate opened its gates for a gathering whispered about in news columns, attended by those who treated influence as inheritance. Marble corridors, chandeliers older than ambition, a string quartet rehearsing sincerity. The air itself carried the scent of curated power. Daniel Cole greeted them at the entrance. His expression was the kind of polite that comes with lineage. "Brother," he said to Adrian, "I didn't think you'd bring her here." "Then you haven't been paying attention," Adrian replied. Daniel's gaze landed on Elena, not with lust, but with curiosity, the way one studies a painting that shouldn't make sense and yet does. "You clean up well." "Miss Elena, I wasn't dirty," she said quietly. He laughed, surprised by her bite. "Touché." Inside, guests turned discreet heads. Whispers rose like wind behind curtains. "Who is she?" "The new one. She's too young." She's exactly what he needs. Elena felt their stares, the silent arithmetic of judgment. Adrian leaned closer. "You're not being watched," he said. "They're rehearsing envy." The orchestra swelled, and she allowed herself a breath. For a moment, she wasn't the runaway daughter or the replacement fiancée. She was the woman standing upright in her own story. Later, under the low amber lights of the veranda, Daniel found her alone. "You're braver than most who enter this house," he said. "Bravery isn't my hobby," she replied. "It's a side effect of what survival." He studied her. "You talk like someone who's lost everything twice and still has manners. I try not to waste what pain taught me. That's rare." He paused. "Do you ever forgive?" "Forgiveness is expensive," she said. "I rent it by the hour." He stayed, but not unkindly. "My mother would like you," before she could ask why. A shadow crossed his face. "Correction," he said. "She will like you eventually." It wasn't until the next morning that she understood what he meant. Her phone buzzed before dawn. A message from Violet: "Come to the hospital. Michael's in critical condition." Her brother, the only one who'd ever looked at her with something close to pity. Elena left without breakfast, without thought. Thomas drove without asking questions. When she arrived, the smell of disinfectant and inevitability filled her lungs. Michael lay pale under the sterile light, bandaged but breathing. Violet sat at the foot of the bed, mascara streaking her cheeks. "Car accident," Violet said. "Mother blames you, says you cursed this house the day you left." Beak appeared in the doorway, eyes sharp, grief buried under anger. "You brought shame, and now you bring death." Elena turned to her. "He's alive. For now." Beach snapped. "If you want him to stay that way, you'll pay for the surgery. 200,000. Elena froze. "I don't have." "Then find it. You owe me for raising you." Something in the word raising broke her. "You didn't raise me," she said, voice trembling. "You trained me to stay quiet." The room chilled. Bick's lips thinned. "Don't pretend you're better than us. You think that rich man will keep you. You're nothing but a convenient charity case." A nurse entered, asking them to lower their voices. Elena stepped outside, hands shaking. Minutes later, a shadow joined her Adrian, in a dark coat, expression unreadable. "Thomas told me," he said. "What do you need?" She shook her head. "I can't take more from you. You're not taking. I'm offering." "Why?" "Because people like your mother are the reason I learned to be cold. Helping you reminds me I wasn't born that way." Tears slid down her cheek before she could stop them. She said, "I owe her for being alive." "Then let's pay the debt and end the account," he said. He walked inside, phone already in hand. Within minutes, the hospital staff began moving faster. Names were mentioned, signatures exchanged. When he returned, it was done. But Beach wasn't grateful. She glared at him. You think your money fixes what she is? She'll crawl back to nothing. That's her blood. Adrian's eyes hardened. Then it's not her blood, he said. The words hung heavy, unanswered. Later that evening, while signing release forms, a nurse handed Elena an envelope, old, torn, the handwriting familiar. Your mother asked me to give you this. The nurse said, inside was a birth certificate, the name of the mother, unknown. Below, in different ink, found abandoned near the river, taken in by beach fam. The air left her lungs. She stumbled outside, clutching the paper. The world tilted, as if all her memories had been rented on false terms. When Adrian found her sitting on the curb, shaking, she simply handed him the envelope. He read silently, then crouched beside her. She told me I was a debt. Elena whispered, turns out I was just lost property. He didn't speak, only placed his coat over her shoulders. The silence was steadying. Finally, he said, maybe this is freedom. It feels like nothing, he said, is what freedom feels like at first. Back at the Cole estate, Daniel was waiting. He looked at the paper, then at her. So that's why she kept you poor, he said quietly. She was punishing a ghost, Elena asked. My mother, Daniel said. Carter. She told me once about a baby she gave away before I was born. Elena stared at him, heartbeat tripping. No, she was young, terrified, and under pressure. She thought she'd erased the past. Now it's standing in front of me. The room spun. You're saying, I'm saying you might be the sister I never met, Daniel said, and that my mother, your mother, tried to buy you back through someone else's pain. Her knees weakened. Adrian stepped forward, steadying her. The revelation detonated in slow motion. The woman who had seduced her husband, ruined her first home, and broken her peace was her biological mother. Does she know? Elena whispered. Not yet, Daniel said, but she will. The confrontation came the next day. Arrived, graceful in guilt, pearls arranged like excuses. Adrian, she greeted, smile tight. We need to discuss the optics of your arrangement. He gestured toward Elena. Perhaps you should discuss them with her instead. Turned froze. Elena held up the birth certificate. Hello, mother? The silence was surgical. Ha's color drained. Where did you get that? From the woman you paid to raise me. For once, the powerful executive had no script. I didn't abandon you. She stammered. I was forced. My parents chose reputation over blood, Elena said. That makes 2 generations of us who were bought and sold. Ha's hand trembled. I tried to find you. Then why destroy me again through someone else's marriage? Ha looked to Adrian. You knew. He nodded. Not until yesterday. Daniel stepped in. Mother, it's done. The past doesn't need more victims. But Ha's eyes never left Elena's. I can fix this, she whispered. No, Elena said softly. You can't fix what you traded. That night, Elena stood on the balcony, the city stretching infinite beneath her. Adrian joined her, quiet, distant. You could leave, he said. Start over somewhere clean. Clean doesn't mean healed, she replied. It just means empty. He nodded. Then stay until you decide what healed looks like. She turned to him. You knew this would happen, didn't you? That helping me meant opening every locked room in both our lives? I didn't know, he said. But I hoped. For what? For proof that running from pain isn't the same as surviving it. The wind lifted her hair. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed familiar now, almost like a lullaby. 3 months, she said again. Or forever, he replied. We think freedom means escape until we learn it's really forgiveness. Some houses aren't built of stone, but of silence, lies, and names we didn't choose. When the walls finally fall, don't mourn them. The truth doesn't destroy a home, it shows you where the door has always been.